The deal is this. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Dude, I'm pissed. Dude, I'm pissed. Come on. What? Wait. Come on. What? Wait. Okay, by the time we finish this, you're all going to be practicing magicians.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I are currently covering the new X-Men, written by Grant Morrison in 2001, 2004. We just wrapped up the riot at Xavier's. All of our teenage druggy mutants, teenage mutant druggy turtles have been taken care of in one way or the other. Quentin Quire has been killed or transcended to a different plane. The rest of them have seemed to have gone to jail or died. And
Bragante.
Yes, and the Stepford Cuckoos notably have left the school, but not before ratting out Cyclops and Emma Frost weird psychic affair to one Jean Grey, who at the end of the last issue caught them in bed together. Gary, how are you today, man?
I'm doing well. Well hydrated. Got a nice day ahead of me. Gonna catch up on work, play a bunch of Kingsfield for Bonfireside Chat.
Hell yeah.
Gonna go walk down to the music store, look for some switches. Possibly, I'm in the market for a new keyboard.
Okay.
Trading some stuff in. So fun errand.
What
the grocery store?
What you looking at? Like a Roland AX210 or like a Mitsubishi 742i? What are you going after there, man?
These are basically like keyboard names or Shadowrun Cyberdeck names.
Yeah.
They all sound like the same thing.
Well, I got this from a BuzzFeed quiz of like, is this a keyboard or is this a Shadowrun? So, like, I can't lay claim to this joke myself. This is a BuzzFeed thing.
I'm trying to get a Korg EP SV1, I think.
Hell yeah,
Korg. I'm trying to get. So Korg, I like Korg. Okay,
good.
Still like Korg is a good brand of keyboards. They do all the Heartbeat City stuff is done in a Korg program. Like
really?
like Korg's synthesizer town. Yeah,
nice.
That's on my phone on the Korg IDS. So
was that an expensive app? Like sometimes I'll look at those synth apps and they're like hundreds of dollars or something. And I've never.
No. It was so the app itself is like $10, and then getting the there's like an extension mode or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
They give you some additional tracks. That is another $10. So it's $20, but $20, like as much as that's expensive for an app, it's incredibly inexpensive for music software or an instrument.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like I feel really good about that purchase. I've gotten so much enjoyment and been able to do so much cool stuff with it. So. So let's get into it. Cover, there's not a whole lot going on. We switched artists. We're back to Phil Jimenez again, who's a good artist, and a good fit for this arc, which is mostly character stuff. There's very little action.
Yeah.
In this arc.
And the cover is just the White Queen, Emma Frost, in her like old school White Queen uniform, not the new X thing that she's been wearing throughout most of this run. Just kind of sitting there, like staring at the camera, kind of in a haughty way, and then Jean Grey with like her legs on her thighs, like leaned over to the camera for some reason. Like, what is going on with this pose?
Her hands on her thighs, not her legs on her thighs, which would be some Plastic Man shit.
Well, I mean, Jean Grey, she's a psychic. She can do anything. She's the Phoenix, Gary. She can put her legs on her thighs if she wants to.
Phoenix can do a lot of stuff, as we'll learn.
Why are you so limiting in the bedroom, Gary? God.
Yeah, I need a qualified sex therapist. The difference here, what they're showing is the difference in postures.
Yes.
Emma Frost being very prim and Jean Grey being like, yeah, you fucked with my husband, you got to go.
And kind of a hint about the stuff we're going to be covering inside the issue. Like we see what looks to me like Jean Grey's old Black Queen, like jacket and like leather stud collar thing. So
yeah, that she's sitting on. Very cool. Mm-hmm. We cut over to basically where we left it. With Jean Grey walking in on them, like, I knew I'd find my husband here in your head, Emma, bursting in on the psychic sex dungeon. And this is a great Emma issue. Like this is a great issue in general. I love this. Emma Emma starting off like being snarky and not realizing the trouble she's in as like kind of a defense mechanism, I think is really good.
Yes. And the first thing, like, Scott tries to protest his innocence and like, this is not real, it's just our thoughts. And she's like, you need to shut the fuck up and leave. And like goes directly towards Emma. Like, I'm going to deal with you later. Me and you will have this conversation. Right now I've got to deal with the homewrecker.
Well, I imagine trying to explain to Jean Grey it's just thoughts, you know. Fuck, dude. Like, and he realizes it, but he's thinking with his dick, right? Like, this is, you know, when people cheat. Like, I have never been unfaithful, but like when that happens, people make a lot of excuses to themselves for good reasons for thinking with their genitals.
It's funny that you say that, because in the second panel when she tells him to shut up, he actually is looking directly at his dick and like going, "Oh, my bad."
Yeah. He's just like, you know, Jean Grey's hand is right in front of his
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the reason we don't see his fucking full steel is her hand just happens to be in the way.
Steel. Yeah. You know, and Emma Frost is snarking, you know, like, you have to agree I look good in your old colors, but I can make myself more up to date if you like. And Scott is still protesting, like, it's not what you think. And Jean's like, it's exactly what I think, out. And we see Cyclops get like burst away in a phoenix flame, and he has been shunted out of the mind.
Yes.
Really, really good.
Yeah, and he kind of comes to on the outside of this room where the Stepford Cuckoos are there, are like, oh, did something happen? She's a little weird, you know. Yeah, and she won't speak to us either. It sounds like Miss Gray Summers doesn't like her one bit. And while this is happening, the door slams behind Scott before he can go back into the room where they're at.
Yeah. I love the Cuckoos. So the Cuckoos are packed to leave. That's worth noting. Mm-hmm. And I love the Cuckoos. Like, it looks like there's going to be trouble, adult stuff.
And then just turning and walking away. Yeah.
Yeah. School's over the summer. Sometimes you can learn too much. They're leaving. We cut over to the rest of the people in the mansion who they know something's going on because of psychicness, but also because Scott is just screaming Jean. And like, it's been a while since the second phase of the show. We finally got some Jean.
Finally got some Jean.
Jean.
Inside this room, Jean prepares to kind of like, hey, like, my husband went through a traumatic experience. You have no right to exploit that. And Emma tries to defend it, and it's like, you know, I was trying to help him. He was utterly desolate. He was possessed by nothing more than the drab heart of his empty marriage. And I'm a qualified sex therapist. And of course, this lights up Jean Grey's temper in a way that is extremely dangerous when she's doing Phoenix manifestation stuff. And sure enough, she like grabs Emma's chair, flings her out of it, and says, "Look at me." And then that's when she shows the Phoenix and lights it up. And it's like, you and me and the Phoenix. And the dialogue has changed to the Phoenix voice. So
yeah. Amazing panel.
Yeah, this looks great. I'm a sucker for like cool Jean Grey Phoenix looking stuff, and like this is one of my faves.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I love Jean Grey in this run.
Yeah,
like this is my favorite Jean Grey. You know, basically accusing Emma of being fake. Like, your whole like joining the X-Men thing was just here to cause trouble and ruin things.
Yes.
The rest of the X-Men find Cyclops. You know, Professor X is like, "What's happening here, Scott?" And Scott to me like, "I've done something stupid. Emma and I did something stupid." Like, he's no longer thinking with his dick. He's realizing like how dumb this whole thing was.
Yeah. Like, I asked Emma to help, and it turned into some weird kind of affair. And now Jean's found out, and everything feels so wrong, and I don't know what's wrong and what's right anymore. Like, this dude is like seriously unmoored from his normal foundation, all because of him getting possessed, and then all of the stuff with Jean and with Emma. Like, it's really loosened him up. Like, not loosened, like, it's really like thrown him loose from his normal foundation.
In a weird way, right? Like, this shows that Emma, and we're going to see this in the future, was successful in what she was trying to do. Yeah. Like, his whole thing of, his icy calm lunacy under pressure, him pretending everything was normal even though it wasn't, he needed this breakdown. Like, after this arc, we're going to deal with him like going and drinking himself silly, and then going and punching some people to feel better, and like getting quality time with Wolverine of all people, you know, to kind of like get over this. And it's really good character development. Like, God, feels good to like be with somebody who knows how to write.
Yeah. Yeah. And that knows what characters are, that knows that they should change and not just punch things all the time.
Yeah. You know, and just this, you know, being able to like read this and be like, yeah, this is actually a really good little bit of subtext. Like, yes, is a fucked up thing that Emma did, but she didn't do it for horrible reasons, and it worked. You know, we're going to find out in this issue, like, it came from a genuine affection for him. Like, all of it, like, there are no real villains here. And we're getting to see how, Jean Grey, who is clearly not a villain, is so dangerous and scary when she thinks there is a villain, that is like to be respected and feared. Professor X says, like, listen, Jean is undergoing this radical psychic transformation. She's accessing reserves of power on a cosmic scale. Like, you fucking idiot. You shouldn't have cheated on her when she's in that mode. And he's like, yeah, I don't care about the Phoenix trying to get into this room. We cut over to the psychic plane.
Real quick, Xavier's thing of she's going through this transformation. We cannot risk angering her. Like, that also drives home a point about Scott and Jean's marriage, in which it's not exclusive to just the two of them. Like, if Jean has this power and these abilities, everybody walks on eggshells around her and is going to encourage Scott to also do the same thing. Which, like,
absolutely.
If you, as Gary Butterfield, were like, hey, you can't make Autumn mad or she might like light the universe on fire, I'm like, fuck you, that's my wife. I can do anything that I want, like, within reason. You don't have a say in our relationship. But if your mentor and father figure is telling you this, like, it just adds to the pressure that you guys are the perfect couple and that you have to be perfect all the time. And you can't doubt the relationship a single second, or else she might destroy the world. Like,
well, also, like, I live in the universe.
Yeah.
So, like, if Autumn was going to destroy the universe, like, I would also have a vested interest in, like,
not doing that
not happening.
Yeah.
Like, and you not causing it to happen. The universe is where I keep all my stuff. I don't want it to be destroyed.
It's where you keep your Korg A117, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or I keep my Farflight Excalibur.
So we cut into what looks like the psychic plane. Emma tries to go into diamond form so she can prevent this, but it looks like Jean just works around it and just barges into her brain, and they go to Emma's family home in Boston. And she specifically says, like, get out of my thoughts. And Jean says, I'm not in your thoughts. You're enfolded into mind. And now Jean Grey is just going to go through like a ruthless set of judgment, is what Emma's going to call it later on in the issue, of like going through Emma's memories of some of the most painful experiences of her life and judging her for them. Which Emma
brutal. tries to truce, basically, like, when people are fighting and it's like, hey, actually, serious time. Like, what is it to you? Who are you to do this to me? She's like, I'm the wife of the man you've been seducing. This memory seems important to you. And Emma says, you left me in a mental hospital last time you smashed your way into my thoughts. Like, referring to something I don't know what comic that's referring to, but Emma Frost used to be a supervillain. And Emma's like, your pacifist posturing is just like hiding a bully. And she goes, shut up. I'm not going to be throwing lightning bolts of psychic electricity at you this time. Again, referring to like the era that fight probably happened in. And says, but the fire of the Phoenix burns through lies. Like, it is the gaze of the Phoenix is like an X-ray tearing through every self-deception. So burn, and it's really good. It's like really scary.
And we go to a memory of hers, of her father having gathered all of his children and his wife in the same room, like speculating who should take over his empire, or all of his money and his fortune, and basically playing them against one another, right? Like, talking about how the brother isn't reliable. One of the sisters, like, it seems obvious, but like maybe he's not the right choice, or it could be rebellious little Emma. And Emma looks dramatically different as a child because, as she says, she's had a bunch of cosmetic surgery, and she just looks like really kind of mean. But Jean Grey says she's not looking at that. She's looking at what's underneath all of this. That addiction runs into her family. Her mom's addicted to pills. Everyone's scared of her father. Her brother started as a user, eventually got out of it, but only by going insane and being in a mental hospital. And like, Jean Grey is showing her this as all of this is happening, which has showing
her brother in a padded cell, like bashing his head against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Just really how, and Emma's just saying, like, you're hurting me. Stop this.
Yes.
Stop this. Like, this is horrible. And the father continues, yes, rebellious little Emma, you're going to get the thing. Emma starts reflecting on her past, saying like, I remember my sister, these are all like all supervillains and characters who have shown up in the past. The Frost sisters, like Adrian is a character. Adrian gasping at the truth. She's second best. Poor daddy. After all those years, he's finally telling me he cared in the only way he knew how. I said, fuck it, I'll make my own way. And she kind of tells her origin, in a way that squares Emma Frost, the like 80s supervillain, with how Grant Morrison's been portraying her.
Yeah. So she rejected her father's fortune. She had $400 in her bank account and decided to start from the bottom. She wound up at the Hellfire Club, where she used her abilities to make men think that she was doing like the dance of the seven veils, but when in reality she was just a real graceless dancer. And she continued to use those abilities to kind of ensnare Sebastian and have him think that she was in love with him for him, and that she didn't just want all of his power. And they set about modifying herself physically to have these attributes that she wanted, and also to build this empire of mutants that they both wanted.
Yeah, got the surgery to become the white and black queen of the Hellfire Club. And she's just confessing this stuff to Jean Grey, and then she realizes, like, she's saying it, like, which is actually none of your business. Like, Scott came to me, you're out of line. The truth is you don't know what ordinary feelings are anymore. You're not even human. And Jean Grey is ignoring this. Like, do you honestly think you can protect yourself against this? Like, you can't dodge this. You think you know what you like, but I know what haunts your every waking hour. Stop hiding. Something happened in Hong Kong. Show me what happened between you and Scott in Hong Kong now, or I'm going to make you relive every horrible moment of your life, which is what she's been doing, basically. And a profoundly fucked up thing to do.
Extremely. Like, this is the point where you're like, wait a minute. Like, Jean kind of had a righteous anger here. Like, hey, like, you do get to, like, this woman's a homewrecker. She's coming into your marriage. Like, if you beat the shit out of her, like, in Louisiana, that's probably not a bad thing. Like, that's at least she didn't shoot you, right? Like, I don't condone violence in any way, but like, you can see that there'd be a righteous anger and you could lose control a little bit. But like this scene specifically with which is absolutely none of your business. And you can see that it's Emma Frost, like, using her power to try to resist the psychic force of Jean. And you see, like, all of these memories on shards of glass kind of breaking around her. And that's when Jean, when she says that, do you think you can protect yourself against this? Like, manifests the Phoenix form and blows all of that away. So like, just ruining her defenses. And you realize, like, the power imbalance here is such that even if, like, Emma did Jean wrong, the answer is so overwhelmingly like more than it needs to be that you like, oh wait. And then we see like this huge splash page when Jean threatens, like, oh, I'll make you relive the life of every single child you've allowed to die. Like, hold up, excuse me. And then the splash page where you see every single child that she has trained that is now dead, laying on the ground on top of one another, and Emma just holding her head and is like, please don't make me look at this. Don't let this happen to me.
Sophie's in there. Negasonic Teenage Warhead is in there. And mostly it's Hellions, because that's the New Mutants opposite team who all died. I hear this is like when Lizzo doxed that Grubhub driver. It's a power imbalance on that scale where it's like, yes, you can be kind of mad, but recognize that you have the fucking Phoenix Force in terms of social media.
Yeah, you've got 500,000 followers or however many. Like, don't just post somebody's address or phone number. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Really fucked up. So we cut over and we cut over the scene, and we've seen this before in the annual issue. She's kind of telling the story, like, I couldn't sleep after the traumas of the day. She comes in, tell me more about the world of Chastity Scott with the wine glasses. This was the end of an issue during that run when they were going to deal with the U-Men and get Zorn. And they're kind of talking like, hey, I had no idea that the life with the X-Men would be so racy. Like, Logan and Domino are making farmyard noises together as we speak. Here's the love. And then I love this little moment because then Emma looks at the camera and says, excuse me, Scott, I thought this was real, but just a memory. I have to go.
Yeah.
That's incredibly cool.
Extremely cool. And then we go to the real world where Emma is like on her side on the floor, like saying, I have to go now, and crying. Tears are spilling from her eyes. And she's like, you have no right to judge me. I love those children. I wanted them to be independent and strong. And that's when Cyclops, having been completely fed up with all of this, literally blasts his way into the room, leaving a gaping hole in the wall and yelling at Jean, like, you're way out of line. And if you want to know what happened, you can read my mind. Like, I'll give you permission. And I love this like stare at the bottom of this page, because Cyclops is like, you can see that like optic blast thing, like when he gets angry and just a little bit pops out, like a little pre-blast, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and Jean has it too. There's fire coming out of her her eyes. Like they're both kind of like saber rattling.
Mm-hmm.
Not to step on your pre-cum joke.
That's okay. Hey, look,
apologies.
senpai, please step on my pre-cum is a thing. So
but don't want to slip in your pre-cum joke. Like it's a.
It was a little messy to begin with. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. Sloppy first. So we cut back to the dream, and we see that night where we thought that they had sex, and they didn't. Basically Emma is giving him good advice. Like he's talking to Emma about these things he had where Apocalypse took over his mind, saying how hard it was. And Emma is doing her, helping him out. You're saying that monster put these dirty thoughts in your head and you're embarrassed that your wife is going to find out what you really think about her. It's really ordinary. Like, you need to relax and relax with some wine and adultery. And he goes, no, like I'm serious about celibacy. It's Jean or nothing.
Yeah,
like he did not fuck her.
Which is called monogamy, not celibacy.
Exactly. It's not celibacy.
Yeah, but whatever. Yeah. It's just strange that it's in the comic book like that. Like it's just so people don't think that you're the one making that mistake. Like it's weird that
yes. I appreciate it.
But
Grant Morrison has the most poly energy of any person I've ever seen. So he probably doesn't know what the word means. So like literally no way that he's not just like, oh, you just have to follow your heart. The body wants what it wants. It's magic.
I love the why can't you just give up your place on the Olympic suffering team line from Emma. Just good line. Good. Yeah. And of course, like, we go back into the real world and Jean, who is super mad about all of this and understandably to a degree is like, you may not have done anything, but they were both thinking about it the entire time. And Xavier, who is worried, like, look, someone has told me that the Phoenix has come to disinfect the planet. Are you okay? Like, you need to chill.
Yeah.
And of course, she says like, oh, I don't need lectures. Scott is my husband. And then she blows Beast off as well as she leaves. And we find out that Scott has turned around and ran and stolen the bike that Wolverine has been working on. And I love this. Oh dear Lord.
It's so funny.
Not the search for Cyclops really again.
Yeah. Which is very funny. And then Wolverine being like, used to Bob. Summers took the bike I've been working on for months. I know he's gonna wreck it. Like, it's really like the idea that they just have to deal with this from time to time. And then we cut over to Cyclops popping a badass wheelie on the motorcycle with energy coming out. It's super cool. Of course, he put on his helmet.
It's I never thought about this until today while I was reading this, but wheelies as a like form of rebellion are very much in Scott Summers' like wheelhouse, right? Like I bet sure like someone was like, you should never be unsafe on a moving vehicle, and Scott's like, what if I did a wheelie though?
Yeah. Look, Professor, no hands, Professor.
Scott, no.
Like, Professor, watch me do this cannonball.
No, Scott, you can irritate your skin that way.
Scott, you've eaten a half hour ago. You might cramp. So we cut over to later. Wolverine is trying to console Emma because again, I like their friendship. Mm-hmm. And she's saying I'm fine. Jean had a rummage around in my head, knock some things over. That's what she does. She's like a judge and jury. I hate this. And Wolverine's like, come on, it's not so bad, but you should have known better to get between Jean and Slim. Trust me. Because that's a place he's been before. Obviously. And
all of this dialogue from Emma is so good. She says, I know he lies beside her at night without touching her. I know she sees what he's thinking and despises him for his weakness. I know she's so pure and their love is so special, Logan, and I'm so shallow and spiteful and manipulative. I know because she saw right through me. She saw the truth and had no defense, and she knows too. Why did I allow myself to become so stupid and vulnerable, Logan? Why did I have to fall in love with Scott Bloody Summers? And that last panel is them like kneeling on the floor and hugging one another, and then we see the outside of the mansion, and like what a bittersweet because presumably you were thinking like, oh, this is Emma's personality is such that she just likes to sow chaos, right? Like she's just doing this to maybe just to see what happens, to fuck around with Cyclops, to maybe get a little back on Jean Grey for being the best psychic in the world or whatever, and kind of like maybe this is just Emma being a little supervillain when that doesn't actually exist, as opposed to her having these meaningful feelings for Scott Summers, like actually falling in love with the dude.
It's genuine. And one of the things that I love about this arc is that like, it's not a subplot. And also Cyclops loves her too. He's dealing with that. He's coming around on that, but it's true. He loves them both, which is a thing that happens in real life. Right. It's very good. And just them doing the swerve of being like, yeah, all of this kind of snark and posturing and stuff is exactly that. It's posturing. It's not, it's not real. We cut back to that night. Beast, is kind of singing opera and bringing flowers and wine to Emma to try and make her feel better. Hey, it's Henry. Logan said you were down, so I brought you that book I was telling you about.
I like that there's still like Omega X spray paint all over the walls. Yeah. Like they just haven't had a chance to really figure all of this out. Like they haven't tried a chance to. Happened. Exactly. Yeah. Like it really shows that we haven't had a chance to clean up, but like all of this stuff is happening all at once. It feels very much like the Cassandra Nova arcs where like why does everything have to keep coming back? Like why is everything happening all the time kind of thing? So
yeah. He lets himself in and he sees something.
He sees Emma Frost on the floor in her diamond form, shattered. And we actually see that was the name of the issue. And she's just in literal pieces, very, very tiny pieces of diamond on the floor. He, of course, drops the wine and the book and the roses that he was like, is this a date, Henry? Like, this, what are you doing?
It's a little weird.
Like, bring some ice cream and like and fucking like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or something. Like, get some comfort food. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was, Yeah, it's been a little minute for Hank. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
You did such a good job on Scott. I was wondering if you could convince me that I'm not gay anymore.
Yeah. Like, can you? Like, I also have sex problems. Yeah. And that's the end of the issue.
Yep.
Bringing us into that's part 1 of Murder at the Mansion. We're going to go into part 2, which is really interesting. We're gonna talk about it next issue or next episode, so I don't want to get into it too much. But they start. We get to see the perspective of this group of people from the outside. It's a series of detective issues with Bishop from their perspective rather than the perspective of any of the characters we spent any time with.
Yes.
And they do a really good job of making everything seem very suspicious and kind of casting doubt as to who this could be, etc. It's a cool arc.
And if you are reading on the Marvel Unlimited app, every time Bishop is there, there's a harmonica noise. So yay, turn that volume up, kids.
Yep. Yeah. And then after that, we get one of my favorite issues in the run, which is like Wolverine and Cyclops drinking at the Hellfire Club, which is like it's for the whole issue. Mm-hmm. Like that is so good.
So good. Just Cyclops getting more and more drunk in that issue is very, very fun.
Yeah. The character development in this arc is amazing.
But thank you, everybody, for continuing to listen and continuing to support us. If you don't, consider supporting us directly at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You get a number of...
smack you.
Or we'll fucking end you. Fuckers. Doing some reverse psychology today, huh, Gary? We're trying to... Don't fucking do it. Don't go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Don't donate to us.
I think the reason why I said that is because I think it sounded like you said, if you don't, you'll do this, is what I thought it sounded like you said.
Oh, I gotcha. But yeah, you get all kinds of cool benefits. You can get these as a group of episodes every 2 weeks as opposed to having to wait for a few days in between. But you can also get early episodes of just about everything else on the network. So check all of that out. If you can't do that, that's totally fine. Tell your friends or leave a review or a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever else you might get this podcast that rates things. So yeah. We very much appreciate all of you listening. We'll be back with another episode, another issue. Jesus Christ, another issue in the Murder at the Mansion arc in just a couple of days.
Umbasa.
Umbasa.